look like this, and so that the person flagging another title out there should be left to be the one to have the honors of going to court to prove that the ministry has changed records or altered records and that these are the true records. What has happened is that the ministry, previously the courts have taken the position that a title is sacred, a title can only be cancelled by the court. And you know, for the court to arrive at a position where it is able to say that these are the records, truly the evidence must be produced before the court by the chief land registrar or through his officers, so that then the court can be able to rely, will always rely in a good judgment, well-reasoned judgment, the court should be able to summon or the owners of the case to be able to call for witnesses and the right records to inform the court, to help the court arrive at the right decision, is evidence from the ministry. So therefore, there is no reason why we should, as a ministry, not be able to rectify the records. When you look at the current section 79, yes, it's not clear that you can be able to alter that title. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, I have been asked what I have been doing. I have been utilizing that section. Severally, I have impugned some of the documents because they are obvious frauds, and therefore I'm not willing to take the dirty work of my ministry to the courts. Let the person alluding or alleging that they have a good title go take me to court, and that should happen to the same for everybody. What has the fraudsters have actually taken that section and utilized it in their favor, and you know they have the money to influence, to pay lawyers, good lawyers, and eventually you may be the owner of the title and find yourself losing. It has happened. We have several cases in the High Court, others in the Court of Appeal, where people, genuine owners of land, are struggling with judgments that don't make sense at all. And I do not want to go beyond that, but they don't make sense and they cannot. So therefore, we need to change the law to some extent to be able to give clarity to what the registrar should be able to do in the event that there is a clear fraud. I have taken the position that I will tackle the fraudsters. I have found myself in one of the notorious cases. I was actually locked up in a suit premises, not a suit premises, in a property that is clearly the records. I found the records had actually been already rectified. The records were okay, but there is somebody also claiming they have a good title. And I was locked by goons within, I think the police were part of the system, so that even when we entered there with them, as a minister, Honorable Speaker, and if there is one time I feared, is that one time, because it was down the valley. Even if it meant me running up, I would have had a challenge to run the hill up. And these are young goons who have been put to guard this property. Maybe you should ask, why did I think I should go there? I'm taking this fight to the crime scenes, Honorable Speaker. And I'm willing to do that because once I have established that this is a title, either for schools, for institutions, because these people have stolen land right, left, center. A lot of government land has been taken away, including prisons land. Institutions have lost land to them, to either people working within or people working within those institutions and other people. So I am taking the war to the crime scenes. And I believe that I need a lot of support from the police for purposes of enforcement. And but with the law, the answer is really dealing a big blow by use of the law, so that it is clear what we should do when we are faced with those kind of things. Yeah.
Junet.
Thank you, Chairman and Speaker.
So, Mr. Chairman, my question to the nominee is, first, Madam Nominee, can you tell the committee in the period that you are there as a Minister for Lands, you have been, as you have just put it now, you have been following up grabbed lands and land that have been grabbed. Can you mention which public land can you say you have recovered from grabbers as of now? And secondly, whether it was necessary for you to go to that scene, what necessitated you going to that place? Because how many land can you visit if, as a minister to go and that is a security issue, that is an enforcement issue. But more importantly, there was a bill that was authored from the ministry, the Lands Amendment Act, that was withdrawn by the majority leader. And you wanted to take the powers of the National Land Commission completely. What necessitated that? What was the reason behind why you wanted to usurp the powers of the Independent Commission? And lastly, the issue of disappearance of files in the Ministry of Land still exists. Kenyans go to the Ministry of Land, RD House, they can't find their files. And we have been told that land was being digitized since when the former cabinet secretary was there, Farida. Up to that time, up to now, from that time up to now, digitization is still going on. But files cannot be traced. When will this issue of disappearance of Kenyans' files end, Madam CS? Thank you very much. Nominees, thank you very much.
The Honorable Ichongwa had asked the same question on the, what is our mandate vis-a-vis the mandate of the National Art Commission, and are we respecting the mandates of the, is there any issue? As far as I'm concerned, Honorable Speaker, there is no problem or challenge. We've not had any conflict or fight between my office and the office of the National Land Commission. In fact, I would say that I am having quite a cordial working relationship with the chairman and his commission. But that does not mean then we abscond or we abandon our duty, and therefore each has their mandate. Our main mandate in relation to titling is we are the ones, the minister is the one who does the leases. In fact, all leases in this country are signed by the minister. I would say not my signature, but for the minister. So I take responsibility for all the leases, including those that are going around there that are fraudulent. Secondly, we also do the title deed or the certificates of title. That's done by my registrars. So to that extent, then, our work is different because the National Land Commission's main mandate is to manage public land, administration and management of public land. And the amendments that we were proposing were speaking to the valuation. I still think that I will be able to come and persuade Parliament that valuation of government projects land, compulsory acquisition should be, the valuation should be done by the owners of the project, by the government, because we are the, you see, the National Commission is an independent organ of this country. And therefore, if it is the government that is doing its projects, there is nothing wrong in them doing the evaluations between the buyer and the government. And therefore, I think those are some of the amendments we were proposing. That does not take any power of the commission given under the Constitution. I think you could talk about maybe the law, but anything that is not working for the government within the law then requires some changes. You are aware that we have had a big challenge as a government by overstating and overvaluing you may not be able to confirm in terms of the valuations, the integrity and the authority of that valuation. The chief government valuer is under my ministry, and therefore that is something we've been in the leases are, what they do is to provide allotment, is to allow allotment and give no objection for allotments to be issued by the county governments, and therefore ensuring that public land is granted to only those who deserve to be granted the public land. And we have no dispute in respect of allotments of land between ourselves and the national government. So in terms of going, to how many places can I go? If I can go to 5 or 10 and provide the statement that is needed to stamp authority of the government in terms of telling the cartels that I'm here and I will not allow, and I can tell you, Honorable Speaker, it has worked to some extent. But I said what I need is the law to be explicit, to be clear, to be able to tackle the problem of cartel. Otherwise, nobody is safe with their title deed if we are not going to deal a death blow to cartels. And I'm willing to walk along that journey with the Parliament.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll just make a brief comment because I was going to also ask some questions on the amendment bill, number 2 of 2023, but since it was withdrawn from the House, I will not dwell on it in the House in Parliament. I'll not dwell so much on it, but just to let you know, in case this committee approves you and the National Assembly, if you rethink of bringing it back, please look at some of the clauses that I need, because from the events of this that happened in this country 2 months ago, you have realized that we have a very informed population in this country. And so that issue of NLC had come up, and Kenyans were with issues of land, and you know how land is emotive. The second thing that was on it that Kenyans raised was the issue of inserting a new clause which will force freehold land owners, property owners who enjoy free ownership for perpetuity and can use the land for any purposes to pay land rate. You know, that was just a comment since it has been withdrawn. So to my question, one, who is a cartel? Every CS nominee talks of a cartel. I want you to explain to this committee your definition of cartel. The second question is the whole issue of the housing levy. By April 2024, the government had collected in excess of Kenya shillings 34 billion. How many houses can you confidently say have been constructed and completed as we speak? And lastly, with the Finance Act having been declared unconstitutional, I think yesterday, do you understand its import on the housing project, and what next if this committee then finds you suitable to hold that office? Thank you.
We'll take another. Nelson.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mine is actually very brief. Affordable housing is one of the key pillars of Kenya Kwanza administration. In fact, the president has been many times quoted as saying it was a deliberate way of creating employment. I want to ask you, Honourable nominee, how many young people have been employed by this program? And number two, do you think this program is sustainable, and is it working?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I think it is important that even though Honourable Lesuda has not come by way of a question, for me to make 1 or 2 clarifications in respect of the authority and the mandate of the National Land Commission. Because many times there is misinformation or misunderstanding of the mandates. And I believe that there is no misunderstanding between ourselves and the National Land Commission. Sometimes it's just propaganda. If you look at Article 67, the functions of the National Land Commission are to manage public land on behalf of the national and county governments. 2, to recommend a national land policy to the national government. Indeed, I have 1 document already recommended, and we are working on the national land policy, reviewing it since 2009. The review is supposed to take place every 10 years. Then to conduct research related to land and use of natural resources and make recommendations to appropriate authorities. To initiate investigations on its own motion, that's regarding complaints, historical injustice, and all that. And then finally, then there is to encourage the application of traditional dispute resolution mechanisms to assess tax on land and premiums on immovable property in any area designated by the law. And to monitor and have oversight responsibilities over land use planning. So I believe that the bill, one of the bills was Honorable Leader of Majorities, and the other one was my bill. There was the very sticky issue that was floating around, which was actually an incorrect position, that we had planned to change freehold title to leasehold titles. One, it is practically not possible within the law for me sitting as a minister or any of my officers to change land tenure from one regime to the other, meaning from leasehold, freehold to leasehold. But with the application and consent of the owner, it is possible. So there was no provision that we had brought to do that. What raised maybe concern is the proposal to levy some charge or some fee on freehold ownership within our cities. Let me clarify again. The levy that we had proposed in the bill that was withdrawn was levy on freehold land within cities. So far, by the description of cities under the Urban Areas and Cities Act, we have Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, and Eldoret is soon coming on board because it has been approved. So 5 cities. But the...
Chair, sorry to interrupt the CS, but because we are a House of Records, and she has mentioned a bill that I have sponsored, which what she has said is not accurate. The bill that I had sponsored initially is what then became the Owen Bayer bill, amending the National Lands Commission Act on Section 14 and 15 of the National Lands Commission Act to vest powers to the NLC Act. What Honorable Lesuda was asking is regarding the bill of the Land Amendment Bill number 2 of 2023, which I withdrew, which came from
which
the
was our
ministry.
bill, yes.